My name is Amanda Pittman. I am with ACoPP, and I'm also a former deputy with the Albany County Coroner's Office. ACoPP, or Albany County for Proper Policing, was founded shortly after Robbie's death. And today we are here to talk about the autopsy results from his death and try and make sense of them and what they say. And we've brought Casey Vernon here today to talk to us about those.
I served as the Albany County Coroner from 2011 to 2014 and then worked with the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner in Syracuse, New York for another year after that.
We already know that Robbie was killed in an officer-involved shooting. There are a few things that the autopsy report can tell us, and there are quite a few things that we can't learn from the autopsy report. But what we wanted you to come here today for was to see what you can tell us about, just from the autopsy report and the documents that you have already seen. What can you tell us?
So the main thing that we can tell from the autopsy report is that Robbie was shot 3 times. We can tell where those shots entered his body, and we can tell that they were not extremely close range shots. Based on the results of the autopsy exclusively, we're not able to say what order those shots were fired in. Putting the evidence that we get from the autopsy and the physical examination together with other pieces of evidence, such as the video from the shooting, we can make some more direct conclusions about what order those shots were fired. But just the physical results from the autopsy itself doesn't tell us that.
Okay.
So when I talk about the shots, I'll usually refer to them the way that they're labeled in the autopsy report itself, which is just A, B, and C. That doesn't necessarily imply that one came before another.
What can you tell us about shot A?
What we can tell about shot A entered the back of Robbie's arm and then exited his body and went back into his chest. This would suggest that Robbie's arm was crossed in front of his body and raised slightly. Okay. So the shot entered like this. Okay. And then came out where his armpit was, and then went into his chest.
Okay, so that the back of the arm doesn't indicate that that shot was a shot in the back, right?
Correct.
Okay, so
it
was more a shot in the side?
Yes, it's more suggestive that his arm was in front of his body or raised in some way than that he was shot in the back. The second 2 shots, or shots B and C as they're labeled, were directly into his back.
To kind of recap, shot A was in the side of the chest and went through the front and side. And then what about shots B and C?
The entry wounds for shots B and C are in Robbie's back. Shot B pierced his aorta, which is a major blood vessel relatively in the center of the body. And some other organs as well. Shot C also did some organ damage as well as lacerating Robbie's liver. There are contusions and abrasions to his face, hands, elbow, and knees, which are pretty consistent with a fall on a rough surface. Okay. He also had some linear contusions.
And remind us what contusions are?
A contusion is just a bruise. Okay.
So he had some linear contusions?
He had linear contusions to his wrists, okay. Which is consistent with the type of injuries that would be produced by being handcuffed.
Okay. Does that tell you anything just from the autopsy about whether he was standing or whether he was laying down or how he was positioned when he was shot?
Not necessarily. Rounds can enter a body and have the trajectory of a round entering a body can be affected by all kinds of factors. The most important thing that we get from the autopsy report itself is that those rounds were fired into Robbie's back.
Mm-hmm. So we would need to see the video and talk to the pathologist and ask more questions to learn what the shot order and what the position of Robbie was when he was actually shot.
Absolutely. The autopsy results are vital in determining what happened, but they're not the only piece of evidence that needs to be examined when trying to put together a cohesive picture of exactly what the events leading to Robbie's death were. More evidence from the scene, evidence from the dash and body cams can give us more insight into when and how those shots were fired, things that we can't tell exclusively from looking at the autopsy report. The autopsy report also includes a comprehensive toxicology screen, which can help us identify whether or not there were any illicit or prescribed substances in Robbie's body at the time of the shooting. The toxicology report indicates that there were no drugs or alcohol in Robbie's system at this time.
Thank you so much for coming and helping us to understand the autopsy report better. Needless to say, there are a lot of questions that we and other investigators and the public still are going to have, but because, like you said, the autopsy is only one piece of evidence, but at least we understand this a lot better.